Madeleine's disappearance remains one of the most high-profile missing person cases in modern history. Her parents, Kate and Jerry McCann, continue to campaign for answers. Madeleine's fund remains active, supporting the search and raising awareness about missing children. Over the years, the case has generated countless books, documentaries, podcasts, and television programs. Public interest persists, and anniversaries of Madeleine's disappearance are marked by appeals for new information. The case remains officially unsolved. The tide of public opinion began to shift against the McCanns on June 6, 2007, when a German journalist asked them outright during a press conference in Berlin whether they had been involved in Madeleine's disappearance. By June 30th, Sol, a Portuguese weekly, published a 3,000-word article titled "The Madeleine McCann, A Pact of Silence," which insinuated the McCanns were suspects, cited supposed inconsistencies in their accounts, and suggested that the now famous Jane Tanner sighting might have been fabricated. The article's reporters had somehow obtained the mobile numbers of the Tappa 7 and another witness, suggesting that details from inside the investigation were being leaked. This and subsequent articles in the Portuguese press, typically echoed by UK tabloids, made a series of unfounded, sensational allegations that would fuel speculation for years on social media. These included claims that the McCanns and their friends were involved in swinging, that the McCanns sedated their children, and that the group had entered into a so-called pact of silence about what really happened the night Madeleine vanished. Particular focus was given to apparent contradictions in statements from the McCanns and their friends. Language barriers and translation complications did not help matters. The police questioned the group in Portuguese through an interpreter, who then translated their replies. Statements were typed in Portuguese and then read back in English for the witnesses to approve. Key inconsistencies surfaced, including whether Jerry and Kate had used the front or back entrance of apartment A to check on their children. In his initial statement on May 4, 2007, Jerry stated that they entered through the locked front door during the 2105 and 2200 checks. But in his second interview on May 10th, he stated that he had entered through the unlocked patio door. The patio doors, accessible from only inside, had been left unlocked for ease of access. There was also confusion about whether the front door had been locked at all. Jerry later explained that while they had initially used the front door earlier in the holiday, it was located near the children's bedroom, so they switched to using the patio doors. Another point of contention was Kate's decision to leave the twins alone in the apartment when she discovered Madeleine was missing, running to the Tapas restaurant rather than using her phone or calling from the rear balcony. Further doubts were raised over whether Madeleine's bedroom shutter could have been opened from the outside. Journalist Danny Collins noted that the shutter, a set of metal slats on a roller, was operated from inside by pulling a strap, locking in place when lowered. Kate claimed the window and the shutter were shut at bedtime but open when Madeleine vanished. Jerry recalled lowering the shutter upon being alerted to the disappearance and then testing whether it could be lifted from the outside, concluding it could not. However, Portuguese police reported no signs of forced entry and argued that forcing the shutter would have created noticeable noise. These discrepancies fed the Policia Judiciaris (PJ) growing suspicion that no abduction had occurred. Kate's immediate outcry, "They've taken her," was viewed with skepticism, as if she were trying to prematurely frame an abduction narrative. From August onwards, investigators increasingly subscribed to the theory that Madeleine had died in apartment 5A, possibly after being sedated, and that her body had been concealed by her parents before being removed weeks later in a car they hired over 3 weeks after her disappearance. In 2010, Carlos Anos, former head of the Portuguese Police Detectives Union, told the BBC's panorama that many investigators still believe Madeleine had died accidentally in the apartment. On June 28, 2007, the McCanns suggested involving Danny Krugel, a South African ex-police officer who claimed to have invented a device capable of locating missing people by using DNA and satellites. Years later, one scientist would describe the idea as setting his BS detector off the scale. Even Kate later wrote that although it sounded implausible, desperation had driven them to consider it. In June, Madeleine's hair and eyelashes were sent to Krugel, and by July 15th, he was in Praia da Luz claiming his device detected a signal on the beach. Inspector Goncalo Amaral, heading the PJ investigation, saw Kate's enthusiasm for Krugel's methods as a tactic to covertly locate Madeleine's body without directly incriminating herself. Acting on his suspicion, the PJ sent a letter to British police, requesting assistance in searching for Madeleine's remains. Mark Harrison, National Search Advisor for the UK's National Policing Improvement Agency, arrived to assess the situation. He surveyed the area by foot and helicopter, dismissing Krugel's device as highly unlikely. In a report dated July 23, 2007, Harrison noted that although 100 officers searched within a 15-kilometer radius of Praia da Luz, most had no proper search training. Search dogs had been brought in, but days later than recommended, and Harrison proposed searching several key sites, including the beach, Robert Murat's property, the Tapas Apartments, Apartment 5A, and hired vehicles. He also recommended using ground-penetrating radar and specialist sniffer dogs. Keela, trained to detect human blood, and Eddie, a cadaver dog trained to identify the scent of human remains. The dogs arrived on July 31st. In apartment 5A, both dogs alerted behind the living room sofa, and Eddie gave an additional alert near the bedroom wardrobe. No alerts were recorded on the beach or wasteland. On August 2nd, police searched McCann's rented house, seizing personal items including clothing, cuddle cat, suitcases, diaries, and a friend's Bible, in which a passage about a child's death had been highlighted. Eddie reacted to Cuddle Cat, but Keela did not. Later, in a separate location, Eddie again alerted to one of the boxes containing the McCann's clothes. On August 6th, the dogs were taken to an underground car park where 10 vehicles, including the McCanns and Robert Murat, were spaced apart. Eddie gave an alert by the driver's door of the McCanns' car. The next morning, Keela alerted inside the boot and to the map compartment holding the car key and key ring. And again, when the key ring was buried in the sand inside of a fire bucket. Almost immediately, Portuguese media reported claims that Madeleine had died inside apartment 5A. Hair and fibers collected from these locations were sent to UK's Forensic Science Service in Birmingham. By early August, PJ officers, according to the Sunday Times, had abandoned the abduction theory. Without awaiting test results, the PJ called the McCanns in, and on August 8th, informing them the case was now a murder investigation. Both were questioned, and it was suggested that Kate's memory was unreliable. The FSS performed low copy number LCN DNA testing, a method designed for minuscule samples but vulnerable to contamination. On September 3rd, John Lowe from FSS emailed Detective Superintendent Stuart Pryor, reporting that while a sample from the car boot showed 15 of 19 of Madeleine's DNA components, the result was too complex for a reliable interpretation, possibly involving up to 5 contributors. On September 7th, both McCanns were formally declared Argaidos. I'm sorry if I butchered that, but it just means official suspects. According to Kate, the PJ proposed a deal. If she confessed Madeleine had died in an accident and she had hidden the body, she might only face a 2-year sentence, while Jerry would go 3. Jerry answered police questions, but Kate declined to answer 48 questions during an 11-hour interview. Despite Lowe's cautious interpretation, the Portuguese police briefed journalists that Madeleine's DNA was a 100% match, resulting in sensational British tabloid headlines, including "Corpse in McCann Car" and reports of a clump of Maddie's hair found in the boot. In 2012, a Daily Star reporter told the Leviston Inquiry that these leaks came directly from Portuguese police. Matt Baggett of Leicestershire Police asked why his force hadn't corrected the stories, said maintaining cooperation with Portuguese authorities took precedence over managing media speculation.